In a packed congressional hearing, tensions were already running high. What started as a routine debate quickly escalated when Representative Mike Johnson took the floor. He addressed Representative Jasmine Crockett with what many in the room immediately recognized as a thinly veiled insult, questioning not her policy, but her intelligence and character. His words weren't shouted, but the disrespect was loud and clear. The moment was tense. Members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some gasped. Others smirked, expecting Crockett to brush it off or respond with the usual political deflection. But what happened next stunned everyone. Crockett didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She simply straightened her posture, turned her mic on, and began to speak, not with anger, but with clarity and power that would soon echo far beyond the walls of Congress. Jasmine Crockett's voice rang out calm, confident, and calculated. "With all due respect," she began, "if ignorance was an Olympic sport, you'd be holding gold." The room froze. For a moment, there was stunned silence. Then, quiet murmurs filled the air. The insult was returned, but Crockett's delivery wasn't juvenile. It was sharp, it was earned. She continued without pausing, dismantling Johnson's argument point by point. "You came in here with empty rhetoric and left your facts at the door," she said, flipping through the documents in front of her. Her tone was surgical. This wasn't a personal attack, it was a public takedown. And what made it more powerful was her unwavering composure. Johnson shifted in his seat, clearly realizing he'd underestimated his opponent. She pivoted from personal defense to policy. Crockett exposed how Johnson had previously voted against measures that directly benefited his own constituents, votes that revealed hypocrisy behind his words. "You can't lecture me about accountability," she said, "while you dodge responsibility in every session you attend." The audience in the gallery stirred. Even opposing members looked visibly uncomfortable. It wasn't just that Crockett was confident. It was the precision of her facts that turned the moment into a demolition. Johnson had expected a passive reaction. Instead, he triggered a masterclass in how to destroy a weak argument with strength, intellect, and poise. Crockett didn't raise her voice once, but each word landed like a blow. Mike Johnson attempted to interrupt, perhaps hoping to regain control of the floor. But Crockett wasn't done. "I let you finish your half-truths," she said, cutting him off with authority. "Now you're going to hear the whole truth." She turned toward the chairman, requested her full time, and was granted it. The room erupted in murmurs again. This wasn't just a response. It was a political moment unfolding in real time. Crockett continued, "You hide behind tradition, but what you're really doing is hiding from accountability, and the American people see it." With every line, she reminded the nation why she's not just a rising star, but a force that cannot be ignored. As the hearing continued, Jasmine didn't let up. She called out Johnson's past statements, comparing them to his present positions, exposing a pattern of inconsistency and opportunism. "You say one thing to donors and another to the people," she noted, referencing public records and prior interviews. "That's not leadership. That's cowardice dressed as confidence." Her voice was steady. Her delivery was flawless. Cameras captured every moment as Johnson sat in awkward silence. He glanced at notes, whispered to aides, but had no meaningful rebuttal. By the time Crockett yielded the rest of her time, the damage was done. She didn't just respond, she obliterated the narrative he tried to build. Clips of the exchange hit social media within minutes. The internet exploded. Crockett clapback and Mike Johnson meltdown began trending across platforms. People weren't just impressed, they were inspired. Comment sections were flooded with praise for Jasmine's poise and precision. Even seasoned political analysts took to Twitter and YouTube to break down the moment frame by frame. "This is how you handle disrespect," one user posted. You don't stoop to their level. You rise so high they can't reach you. Her words weren't just trending. They were being quoted like battle cries. It was clear this wasn't just a viral moment. It was a career-defining one. Within 24 hours, talk shows and news outlets were replaying the confrontation on loop. Political pundits were calling it a turning point in Crockett's career and a potential downfall for Johnson. He picked the wrong day and the wrong woman to mess with, said one commentator. Behind the scenes, staffers reportedly scrambled to manage the fallout, issuing statements and clarifying positions, but the narrative had already taken shape. Jasmine Crockett, with a microphone and a calm demeanor, had turned a congressional insult into a national conversation about leadership, integrity, and resilience. And Mike Johnson, his moment of mockery, had become a permanent stain. Even those unfamiliar with congressional proceedings were now watching. Teachers played the clip in classrooms. Activists shared it in community meetings. Young people, often disengaged from politics, saw in Jasmine something rare, authenticity paired with brilliance. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every person who had ever been publicly undermined, underestimated, or disrespected. "That's how you protect your name," someone tweeted. "That's how you stand tall in rooms that want to shrink you." Her words weren't just a response to Johnson. They were a reminder to everyone watching: never let ignorance go unchallenged. The aftermath rippled beyond the headlines. Donors began pulling support from Johnson's office. Political opponents seized the opportunity to question his judgment and fitness to lead. Meanwhile, Crockett's approval ratings soared. She was invited onto major media platforms, not as a guest to defend herself, but as a voice of power, progress, and poise. Every clip, every quote, every reaction reinforced one undeniable fact. She hadn't just won an argument, she had owned the entire room. And the fallout made it clear that Johnson's career might never fully recover from this misstep. Sometimes, a single sentence can end an entire legacy. What Mike Johnson tried to frame as a rhetorical jab ended up being a career-threatening miscalculation. Jasmine Crockett proved that silence isn't always golden. And when you speak, speak so clearly that even your critics have no choice but to listen. Her response wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming space, demanding respect, and showing the world that strength doesn't come from volume. It comes from truth. In just a few minutes, Crockett changed the tone of the entire chamber. She didn't just respond. She rewrote the narrative. And as history will remember it, she didn't just end a debate. She ended a career with one voice, one mic, and one unforgettable moment.